first, let's bring out here Mr. Chris France. Number two, the lead bassist and singer for Tom Tom Club. And also the bassist for Talking Heads, Tina Wayman. Number three, the man, the myth, the legend, the musical beating heart of Talking Heads, Jerry Harrison. And last but not least, the man not wearing a big suit tonight or any suit at all, Mr. David Byrne. Before we start, we said every year is going to have to really deep out because I'm going to say it for the record here, so I want to do it one more time. The name of this band is Talking Heads. I was about this close to wearing a Stop Making Sense t-shirt here, and I was warned by my friends that it would be a totally goofy thing to do, but it didn't stop me from bringing anybody out there who cares about this movie or this record. Get this. It's the new vinyl, complete concert, remastered, totally restored. It's got everything in it, an incredible book inside that's got a lot of good research material for someone who's doing an interview with Talking Heads. I will only speak about myself to say this. In December of 1983, I was a kid growing up in Los Angeles. I was just started my first year of college. I came home Christmas break for most of December. There was a show going on at the Pantages Theater, Talking Heads, band I really liked. I didn't go. Didn't go to these shows. Biggest fucking mistake I made in the history of my life. Fall of 1984, when the movie comes out in the theaters, I'm in Chicago, where I went to Northwestern University. I went to the Biograph Theater on opening night and saw the first evening screening of when the movie first opened in cinemas. People went fucking crazy. The next year, I'm in a philosophy class, and a professor walks in with a boombox, puts it on the first day of class, puts it on the thing, and does a perfect imitation of Girlfriend is Better, plays the beginning of the song and says, that's what this class is going to be about. The class is about phenomenology, and that is what Stop Making Sense is all about. And I was like so stoned, I was like, wow. I think he played every song from all of Talking Heads' 5 albums at that point. And then, next year, at the big, huge student talent competition at Northwestern, the people who won was a group that did a perfect imitation of Once in a Lifetime with a kid named Kevin Gore, who looked exactly like you, and did not sing quite as well, but it was really something. And I thought at that point, man, this thing has staying power. It's been with me for 4 years of college. It might stick with me forever. I'll tell you this, there's probably no movie I've watched more than this movie in my life. You can't watch a narrative movie 57 times. Well, some people can, But I've seen this movie dozens and dozens of times, and I still will tell you, as much as I loved it then, I love it now, it never occurred to me that, sort of in the vein of legal weed and gay marriage, that 40 years later, Stop Making Sense would be a phenomenon again all around the country. It's fucking amazing. So, people ask about the origin of this movie. David, I'll start with you and ask this question because, of course, before you get to how does Stop Making Sense, the movie, happen, there's the tour, the Speaking in Tongues tour, which was a departure for you. You've never done anything. You've said in a couple of these interviews you've done around this movie that this is basically what you were doing on the Speaking in Tongues tour. What we see here was the show, and you had an idea for how this tour was going to be different from other previous Talking Heads tours. Talk about what you had in mind in making the tour before we get to the movie.
We had the previous tour we already had an expanded lineup beyond the four of us, and we did a thing where the four of us came out. It started with the core band, and other people joined. So it's time to do another tour and another record. And I thought, can we take that further? How far can we take that? Can we start with, say, just me, and then add members of the core band and all these other people, little by little? Could we do it with an empty stage, so it's not just us coming out one at a time, but the whole, everything kind of coming out that makes a show? It was a question. And, we decided to try and find out the answer.
Jerry, talk about this, about again, before you get to the movie, there's the music. And this band is just as fucking great a live band as ever has been assembled, I would say. And you saw David go through them, and I'll say all their names again: Bernie Worrell, Steve Scales, Alex Weir, and of course the amazing backing singers, Lynn Mobiri and the whole. The noise you guys made. So just talk about putting this band together and how you did that, how you put this band together and what you got.
Well, it started with the Remain in Light band, because when we recorded Remain in Light, we realized that we really couldn't play all of the parts at the same time. We had done such a lot of layering, and we had the opportunity to play Central Park and the Heatwave Festival in Mossport outside of Toronto. And we were being paid more money because there were bigger gigs, and so we said, well, let's see if we could try and find a way to play this. And I remember sitting down, and we were still mixing the Remain in Light, and David and I said, well, we need background singers, percussion, we need another keyboard player, we need another guitar player. Oh my God, he's on that tour, we maybe need another bass player. And I had been hanging in New York with a guy named Busta Jones, and I had met Bernie, and I knew Dolette. So I started with them, and Adrian had played on the record, so I called Adrian. I came back in the afternoon, and they're like, I think we have the most amazing band. And then we found Steve the next day. Then Adrian went off, and afterwards, the Tom Tom Club and Red and Black and Catherine Wheel joined King Crimson, and we met Alex Weir actually through Quincy Jones. And then we met,
Thank you, Quincy.
And I think Dolette went off to play at the Sing with the Police or something like this. And so Lynn had been in the Brides of Funkenstein, so through Bernie, and she knew Edna. Right?
So you're on this tour, Chris, and you guys are kicking ass. Do you remember the first time anybody here, before we get to Jonathan, do you remember the first time anybody of these four key band members here said, hey, maybe there's a movie in this?
Well, we love movies, and yes, I think we thought, this is really good, we should document it. We didn't know we were going to end up with a director as great as Jonathan Demme at the time. But Jonathan came backstage one day and he said to all of us, I'd like to make a movie of this. I think it would be really cool. And we had seen his movie Melvin and Howard.
Sure.
And I think maybe some other movies like Caged Heat.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of Caged Heat fans here. Roger Corman fans in the house.
And to be honest, I can't remember any other directors expressing interest. But Jonathan did, and we were happy with that. It was just like a really good match. He gave us confidence. He was, we all agree that he was a really good cheerleader for the band. And he was also a consummate artist in his own right. So, and he understood us. He got the whole shtick. And he got that we were sometimes awkward.
That's their trademark.
Yeah, I mean, we made a lot of money being awkward.
Sure.
So, there might be a few people that could relate to that.
I was going to say, bunch of angst-ridden white people making money. What do you know about that? Hey, Tina, I want to ask you, I was going to pick this story, because Demi shows up backstage. You tell this story, I mentioned this this booklet that you put out in the re-release of the album. You tell the story about sitting down, you and Chris sitting down with Jonathan, and having a conversation with him about what this movie should be or could be, and more importantly, what it shouldn't be. It's interesting, all the things that you were like, we don't want this, we don't want that. Tell that story.
Yes, well, we had enjoyed a lot of other rock concert movies, but one of the things that I thought was a real mistake was interviews, because we wanted our music to speak for itself, because our music was the star of the show. I mean, the suit comes in second.
Supporting cast.
Yeah, but one of the things that I kept thinking in the back of my mind was no split screens, none of that hippie stuff. and let the camera be like a sensitive eye that doesn't call attention to itself, but allows the viewer to really be a member of the audience and not be conscious of it. So those were some of the things, you know.
Yeah.
And then he was just so wonderful, because we had a team, a great team, and we had a great crew that worked as a team with us. And then he brought in an amazing team.
Right.
Really amazing. I think one or two of them might even be here.
Wherever you are out there, you deserve a
Yes.
round of applause too. You guys really you guys made music and thought visually, made music that was well suited to visual expression. This is the dawn of the video era, David. You guys had, the Once in a Lifetime video on MTV in 1980 got a ton of play. It was really avant-garde, by which I mean really fucking weird. And so was Burning Down the House, which has elements in it that are very similar to what we see. That's like 83, it's right when you guys are making this, so there's things in Burning Down the House in that video that are very reminiscent of certain kind of motifs here. You directed those videos. You were the video, you directed a lot of dance videos. Those two in particular were huge hits. What is it that you saw in Jonathan that you thought, he's gonna bring something different to this than, well, anyone, but than what we've had in our previous small screen visual expressions?
I assume that somebody who'd done features can take a long view of whatever it is, in this case, our concert, and see if they might see a story there, that there's a progression from the beginning to the end. Whereas with a video, you're looking at little 3-minute chunks, and you can just throw a lot of surreal, whatever, imagery and things in there. It doesn't have to tell a long story. And I assume, yes, that a proper film director would think more in those terms, which is, yeah.
Yeah, you made this point the other day about how he saw the ensemble nature of it. About that there was this is a group of people I introduced you to, these people get to know them, and it's like you're building this kind of portrait of a family in some way, and then you couldn't see that yourself from the world you lived in on stage.
I know for myself, I was too much inside the show. But when I started to see the editing taking shape and what Jonathan and the editor, Lisa Day, were doing, they were paying a lot of attention to the interactions between the band members. And as if it was a kind of ensemble film with a cast, and as each person comes out, you get to know them a little bit. You get to know their kind of character and their quirks and what they do, and then you see how they interact with everybody else. And I thought, I take all that for granted, and I'm just, I didn't see that, and I thought he brought something really special to it.
Chris, you said the other day this thing about how sweet Jonathan was and his kind of his purity. I think about the Demi career. The word that always comes to my mind is like humanism. He was just this profoundly humanistic director. Whether he was doing things like Silence of the Lambs, hard to be a humanist making a movie about a serial killer, but was. And whether it was Melvin and Howard or Something Wild or Swimming to Cambodia, take your pick. They had the through line of Jonathan Demme's movies is this kind of intense awareness of the humans in the frame and how they're relating to each other. Just if you can think about ways in which his purity and his sweetness kind of informed your experience of working with him, I think it'd be cool to kind of think about that in a specific way.
Well, I think we all felt that we could trust Jonathan to do a good job. He did have a very pure spirit. He was capable of being very serious, but also he preferred, I think, to be lighthearted. And we all developed a friendship with him, sort of just like that. And one big talent Jonathan had was knowing how to delegate different responsibilities to people that were really at the top of their game, such as Jordan Cronenweth, the director of photography. But let me just say, he got a lot of help from Sandy McLeod. Are you here tonight, Sandy? Where are you? Take a bow. And the whole team I always felt like everybody was at the top of their game and really devoted, to their craft. And Jonathan surrounded himself with those kind of people.
Tina, you made this, we were just talking about this topic a second ago, and I think about it, there's the trailer for this re-release says the greatest concert film ever made. And Spike Lee the other night in Toronto said the greatest concert film ever made. I say, well, yeah, of course, but also one of the great kind of timeless works of art of our time. But it's kind of a weird comparison. It's like comparing this movie to The Last Waltz, or heaven forbid something like Song Remains the Same. It's like an Apple and a Volkswagen to your computer, right? Is this a concert movie? Is this performance art? Is it? There's acting. Did you conceive of this as a conceptual piece, or just, hey, we're a band, we're playing our songs?
Well, of course, we're a band playing the music, and we have a riveting frontman, and he is an actor, and it's something that is hard to put your finger on, because we think of it as pop art, entertainment, not really fine art. But I think Jonathan almost kind of raised it to that level.
Jerry, did you think about that this way? Did you think you were, I was just wondering about in moments like this where someone produces something that's turned out to be as timeless as this, whether you're just, you get a lot of this false humility from some great bands that says, hey, we're a working band, we're cranking our songs out, we're trying to make a living. This seems to me something, you're like, well, we employed some of the techniques of Robert Wilson, and we did this, this is a more intellectual, a higher art aspiration, it feels like to me. And so I'm curious, how do you categorize this piece of film?
Well, I would start with that I felt by the point that we recorded the film, that we were, if not amongst the best bands in the world. That our show, there were lots of great musicians and great bands, but that there was people having to follow us. Oh boy. And
so I feel right now.
And I think that the great thing about the film, and what you were and I think that what you were pointing at is that, and David's conception of sort of the narration of building it, it's not just a concert. It has a conceptual arc, it has a narrative arc, and therefore it sort of becomes more than any one of those things. It becomes something as a whole, and therefore that's why we grasp at words to try to describe it.
David, you've said that this, in addition to a thing that I said earlier, which was this is the show we were doing, that Jonathan, you collaborated with Jonathan to shoot. You've also said this is kind of the story of the band up to this point. You guys have made 5 records at that point. Each one, you could argue, better than the previous. If this, and I think it's It's a quote in this where that you gave in this essay, sort of in this thing. I've seen you say it other places. If this is the story of the band up to this point, and the narrative arc that Jerry's talking about, what is that story? What's the story that's being told in Stop Making Sense?
Part of it is you see this kind of very intense, awkward guy in the beginning.
Who's that guy?
He's that guy.
It's the psycho killer, you mean? That guy?
Maybe that guy. He's trying to figure things out himself and the world, and then he's joined by these other people, and little by little, he starts to kind of feel himself in a little community. He starts to let go, feel and actually start to have some fun. I can see him smiling once in a while. And so just from that point of view, there's a whole story of this person kind of finding a kind of salvation or release or surrender or
Family,
something.
community.
Yeah, all of that.
All
Yeah,
of that.
yeah. Through music, through the other people.
And surrender.
Yeah.
In some way.
He's surrendering to the music, for sure.
Yes. Well, and I want to come back to that in a second, but Jerry, I want to ask you this. I want to fast forward to today. Right? Here we are. Unfortunately, this crowd and everybody here now has another reason to go see Stop Making Sense again soon, because unfortunately we don't have in this space, we don't have the IMAX version. I saw the IMAX version at IMAX headquarters this summer, and I will tell all of you that there are sometimes when you make something much bigger, it's not just bigger, it's different. It's a different experience. I've seen the movie a lot of times, and I came in thinking, I couldn't love this movie more. And I watched the movie and said, fuck, man, it's a different movie than I've ever experienced before. You were very involved in both the musical and the video, the reimagining and the reconstructing of it, et cetera, et cetera. Tell that story of how that all happened.
Well, the one thing that was difficult is there was this, it took a long time, for instance, to find the original negative, which was, I think, at the MGM library. What was it?
In like Nebraska or
Well,
something.
why would it be the MGM library? It was forcibly, hats off to James Makowski, he found it. And then we had all these tapes, and we'd play them, and then it would drop out of sync. And going, what is going on? And so there was a lot of work that went into just making sure we had the right material. But then the opportunity for both, this was let's not downplay the theater we just saw it in. This is having multi-channel audio in a theater is taking we now go to the films and hear effects coming around. We're now used to this. And so for a music film, it was like there's an expanded palette that we can deal with. But we have to be very careful not to go overboard and take too much advantage. One thing I was talking about is that Jonathan doesn't go out into showing the audience until quite late in the movie. So it's really us on stage, and when we were mixing this, it was very important to keep that bands up there. Not, we use it when Lynn is singing, she's so, heavenly and ethereal. So we're judicious about it.
When you saw the IMAX version of this, you thought what?
I thought, God damn. It was, there's an intensity and it snowballs. It starts off at a fairly high level, I would say, with Psycho Killer, but from then on, it just grows and grows and rolls and gets bigger and more powerful, and it's also a lot of fun to watch for me. I mean, my wife, she looks so great. She still looks pretty good. Yes, she still looks.
I don't want to get you in any trouble there. Don't put it in the past tense. Tina, when you see this movie now, and especially when you see it in that giant format, which is like I said, it really is, it's a different experience to see it when it's really big like that. All the things that Demi does with light and the staging and the costume, the things you guys wore, without using costumes, but it's on that scale it changes it. And I guess it's hard to imagine what it must be like to watch it, having seen it evolve. I mean, 40 years later, to see it in this kind of enhanced form. When you look at it, does it feel like you're looking at a very, very large, like high school yearbook? Like it's a very long time ago, and it's like covered in nostalgia, or does it feel like all this shit just happened yesterday?
Nostalgia. So to borrow from a friend of ours, but it still feels fresh. I'd say that's just my opinion.
I hadn't really thought about it until I saw that version of it, David. I kept thinking that, if you look at movies that were made in 1983, 1984, all of them look incredibly like 1983, 1984. They're all kind of anachronistic. This movie has felt from 1983 to 1984 to 1994, 2004, 2014, now we're here in 2023. I think if you played this movie to someone who had never seen it before and was just like a space alien who dropped on planet Earth and watched this movie, they would say, that was made yesterday. There's nothing about this that screams 80s to me. And there's a number of elements of timelessness in this movie, but that is one of them, where it feels very contemporary. Jerry was talking the other day with Spike Lee about how much he loves Life During Wartime. The paranoia in that song, some of the politics of that song, could be referred to the Trump era. It feels the tension, the kind of febrile kind of tension of it, the things that people are wearing. If you took a picture of these things and of a lot of these things that are represented on screen, which you guys are wearing right now, and you put them out in a fashion magazine now, people would say, oh, that's the row. That's, quiet luxury. That's fear of God. These things look, they're like the height of runway fashion now. How the fuck did you do that? Make this thing feel modern in any era. I know I'm going to a direct question. I'm trying to elicit something a little more subtle, but I don't understand it. Was that on your mind, timelessness, at all?
No, not at all. Not at all. We knew that there was certain things, say like in the lighting, there was certain kind of flashy lighting things that were pretty common in rock concerts at the time. And we thought, no, we're not going to do that. Other people do that, and they maybe do it really well, some of them. But we thought, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to come up with our own kind of thing, whether it's the lighting and or the way we dress and present ourselves. And I think by doing that, we kind of pulled it out of that, all the stuff that was current at that particular moment, and we kind of avoided a lot of it.
I feel like that we watch this and you feel like you're kind of like this is a group of kind of Earthlings who at some point escaped the apocalyptic Earth, went off to another solar system, learned the wisdom of the things you talked about before, about surrender and moving your body, not thinking, stop making sense. They've come back to teach us how to live and love and grab hold of each other. I'm now speechifying, not questionizing, because I don't know what the question there is, except that's it. Watching it, when I saw it in that large format, I just really had this feeling of, it has that kind of, that is, I think, where some of the timelessness comes. And Jerry, you have another idea, I think, about where the timelessness comes from here, like what it is that keeps it going and why it keeps it stay fresh.
Well, I think that what David touched on is that most of the lighting effects probably could have been done in the 30s or 40s. And so there's nothing that speaks of that particular time period. It feels, you'd seen old movies with handheld lights or uplighting and things like this, and so it was just imagery that really David and I guess Beverly Emmons, is that right? Were able to draw on things and create this kind of whole that had little reference points, but still just were coherent to this film.
I was talking about the look of the film, right? All these people up there dressed in these, in some combination of like North Korean workers outfits and in fear of God fashion, runway fashion. One exception, your husband. It's like, apparently David says, hey, everybody just look at wear muted colors and try to, they all look the same, we'll all look like that this way. And this one's, if they're in a like a turquoise polo shirt. And so, how did that happen?
Had to do with laundry. It's really hard to get your clothes cleaned on tour.
That's a real story, right? Your clothes were dirty, this is all you had.
You
so
know, I can't remember, what was I thinking? The second half of the show, I'm in a muted, neutral tone. But, you know, you're on TV.
Yeah, I'm often in a turquoise polo shirt, not. I'm also not a rock star. Hey, I want to stay with you because you did say this thing that I was really getting back to kind of like what this movie's really about on some level, right? And you said that when you guys were playing at the Pantages, that you felt one thing during this period of time, which was joy.
Yes.
Just unmitigated, unbridled joy to the point of transcendence.
Yes.
Talk about what that felt like then, and does it still feel that way now watching it?
It does still feel that way. When I see it, I get happy. And you know, playing music is supposed to elevate people, and the musicians like to feel like they're being elevated themselves. And with Talking Heads from the very beginning, but particularly at this point in time, it was I don't think I'm going too far to say that for me it was like a religious experience. I was transported to a place where, you know, I really enjoyed being, and I'm out of my own skin, really. I'm like, where am I? Am I on the astral plane or what? Just please don't stop playing the drums, man. Keep going. At some point, I would get like a terrible cramp in my arm, but I would keep smiling, like everything is great. And I would see that in the audience. I would see the joy in the audience and the feedback they were giving us. And as I looked around the stage, I would see it in David, Jerry, Tina, Bernie, Edna, Lynn, Steve, and Alex. You know, I would see it in their faces, and it was like a musical fever. You know?
Do you guys all feel that way? Is that how you all felt?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
relate to what Chris said?
I think that we were having such a great time on stage. It was impossible for the audience not to join us.
They wouldn't let us take questions from the audience here, but I do have a couple of questions from the outside. One of them is from my friend Cameron Crowe, the director, who's a huge Talking Heads fan. And he, this is a very Cameron kind of question I'll ask you, David, because of your role here, but he said a lot of the best music is music that's personal. A lot of the best songs are personal songs. Are any of these songs personal to you, or are these all songs in which you're playing a character?
I never thought of myself as a psycho killer.
The jury's still out, frankly.
Yeah. There's still a chance there.
There's still time. There's still time. There's still time.
But I think something like once in a lifetime, we've all, it's not just unique to me, my own experience, we've all had that kind of experience of wondering, how did I end up here? How did that happen?
I'm feeling that right now.
Okay.
I'm really good here.
We have a song for you.
Yes. Jerry, there's this movie comes out. I said it's had a huge amount of influence on a lot of people. People love this. It's achieved this kind of pantheon status. And you just said a minute ago, you were, if not the best live band in the world, you were at least one of them. And after this, you never tour again. And And you made this point in this New York Times piece last week where you said, you just said, that was it. And you expressed, I'll read the quote because I wanted to ask more about it. You said, I also think that we had the ability to become one of the biggest bands in the world at that point, touring bands. I think there was a lost opportunity that would have been fun for all of us. Do you have regrets about not, at that time, having taken this to the next level? This is what we see here tonight?
Well, I love playing live, so sure, I would have liked to have continued that. I mean, I was disappointed that we were not a part of Live Aid because I thought it was I actually was in London in his office when Bob Keldorf was trying to line people up, and so I kind of felt like we should do this. But I think David creatively was already at that point starting to work towards True Stories and Little Creatures, so he was like in a different headspace of that. But there is an element of like, well, how do you top this and things like that. So I think there was a little bit of trepidation that everybody felt. Once it's been captured on film like this, it's okay, we really have to kind of conceive of something new, and that might take a little while. But I love playing live, so sure.
Yeah. Another really close friend of mine asked a question that I want to put to all of you because it's a question that goes to what artists try to do. And any piece of art, there's any artist that makes a piece of art has not conflicting motives, but many motives, as is driven by many things. I wonder when you were making this tour, this movie, Tina, I'll start with you and I'll move my way down the road here. Like, were you making this for yourself, or were you making this for us?
Oh, definitely. Definitely for the fans. I mean, really. You in your mind when you were doing all of this, you had no sort of sense of like, you had some personal, there was some kind of objective, some goal, something that was you were kind of driving yourself to. The answer to this could be both, by the way, it doesn't have to be one or the other. But was there, if you thought about like what you hope to get out of this, we're putting this thing into the world. These are my hopes for this thing. What would you have said at the time, and what do you feel like you've gotten out of it now 4 years later? I know I'm going, it's like, I didn't get stoned before this, but I was like, this is going to be a stony interview at some points, but here it is. I mean, I shared Jerry's regret. It was really sad to just say, okay, the movie's going to tour for us, that's it. I thought we could go on, we could go back to being a quartet. I thought we could do a million things. I thought we had a lot in us. And we were so young, to be retired at age 32. So, but now that's in the past, and we don't care anymore. We're not dead. Blessedly, we're all alive. We've lost some people, and I mean, all of us have.
Including some of the musicians in this show.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And, but we go on, and they're remembered. And as long as we have memories of them, they live on. And so do we, through them and through each other.
There is one upside to this, is that all of us have done a lot of other art, a lot of other things.
Yeah.
And a lot of those projects might not have happened. So sometimes you exchange one good thing for another good thing. So I think we could have done great things, but I'm proud of the things that we did do.
We're not going to suggest otherwise, but I see lots of questions, but I'm kind of going back to this thing. David, I'll ask you this question here. It was just the kind of like, there is, and again, I say not a false binary here, this doesn't have to be an either or, but like, when you were making this, first conceiving it, then executing it, then making the movie, were you doing this for us? Were you doing this for yourself? Or were you doing this for both? Or neither?
It's hard for me to imagine or remember. I seem to recall it just seemed like a natural progression, like based on what we've done before, and where it could go next, and it just seems like, well, yeah, this is what we should do now. This is what we should do next. We should try this show and see if it works. Now, there was a chance that it wouldn't work, that people would go, you know, when I come out and then Tina comes out, they might go, where's the band? We didn't pay for this kind of artist thing. We're ready to rock out here. Yeah.
When you see, when you see yourself up here on this thing, I'll ask this question, I'll ask one last question to the band, but just to follow up on that, when you see yourself up here doing the things you're doing, incredibly charismatic, magnetic, but you know, also in some cases, like we haven't really seen anything like that before in this performance. When you look at yourself now, 40 years ago, what do you think of that guy up there?
I think that guy and the whole band is an incredibly tight unit, incredibly creative, really incredible what we did at that point. I'm still surprised by some of the choices I made. You know, whether it's like falling down or running in circles or whatever.
When are we going to get a Tom Huckle movie?
Oh, it's coming.
Okay. It is time, and I'm going to exercise my moderator's prerogative and just say one last thing. I think that I don't speak only for myself. I think I maybe speak for some other people in the audience. If I do, you guys could let me know. That I think most people here would love to see Talking Heads play again together. And it's the case that basically every band that's ever existed has done a reunion tour. A lot of them a lot worse than Talking Heads. A lot less consequential. Some of them absolutely inconsequential, sort of thing. I know you guys have all said over and over again in various formats, it's not going to happen, not going to happen, not going to happen. The rapturousness of this response to this movie, that people are so, the devotion and what they're showing, the way people are like in love with this movie and the love that's pouring forward. And Spike Lee was talking about the love yesterday. Love, love, love. There's a lot of love on the screen. There's a lot of love for this band. There's a lot of love for the music. I open this, I throw this as a jump ball to everyone. Is there any chance then the experience of putting this out? I mean, I'm being serious. Is there any chance the experience of putting this out, going through this, and seeing the way that people are reacting to it, could open the door again to all of us getting our fondest wishes so you guys do a little more music together?
You know, speaking personally, I'm just very happy. I have a feeling of great gratitude to be here tonight with my bandmates. And to have a fabulous audience watching the movie in a great theater with a great MC interviewing us. I'm just happy right now in this moment.
Bodhisattva. That will be the bands, the former bands, the current bands, whatever you call you guys, Talking Heads. That'll be the final Talking Heads statement on this matter tonight. But everyone should keep begging because me.